Welcome back everyone. I know it's been a while since I've been here, but today I'm back with another video and I want to talk a little bit about the much discussed question regarding vegan and vegetarian diet. So first of all, I want to make a little bit more clear what is the difference between these two, and here there are some stages because I think most of the people really know what vegetarian and vegan is, but I'm still gonna go a little bit deeper into that. And first of all, there are several stages or several sorts of vegetarians. For example, the lacto-ovo vegetarians avoid animal flesh but like to eat eggs and dairy products. There are also lacto-vegetarians that also don't eat meat and eggs but only dairy products. Ovo-vegetarians avoid all animal products but eat eggs, for example. There are also pescatarians, and I also know quite a lot of these people. They don't eat any meat or poultry but eat fish and seafood. Flexitarians are people that are partly vegetarian and partly also eat meat. Veganism, I would say, is an extreme, no, I don't want to use that word. It's more like a more strict or a more extended way or diet than the vegetarians, because as a vegan you don't eat any animal products and any animal derived products. And so probably you know that, but there's of course in this diet there's no place for meat and poultry, also no fish, no dairy products like milk and butter and things like that, and cheese of course, and also no eggs, and also no things like honey or gelatin or things like that. It's sometimes really a thing of a discussion because you can also ask yourself what is actually an animal, or is a bee an animal, or is it an insect? And I just really like to ask myself this question as well, and not just accept the fact that someone said, okay, honey is not good because it's made by bees. Of course, I do respect all animals and insects, but there is just sometimes a relativeness to this that you have to think also about by yourself and not just accept all the things that someone tells you. And this is also something that I would like to do for myself and for my vegan diet, because not everything makes maybe sense for me as you read it somewhere. So as you've seen, there are quite a lot of different stages or different versions of these two diets, and there are quite a lot of similarities but there are also differences, but I guess there are much more similarities. And both the diets tend to be low in saturated fat and cholesterol, partly because when you don't eat eggs there is much less cholesterol, but also considering the meat intake. Both of them tend to contain a lot of vitamins, nutrients, minerals, fiber and healthy plant compounds, because mostly the diets contain a lot of fruit, vegetables, nuts, seeds and soy products. So this goes somehow hand in hand. But the problem is sometimes that people also criticize about the vegetarian or vegan diet is that the nutrient intake is for some really low, like iron or vitamin D, calcium or zinc. But here I have to say that I had an iron deficiency much before I went vegan. It doesn't really has to do with the diet itself. There are so many components and so many parts of your life and your lifestyle that come into how healthy you are and about what nutrients you have and all the things. So it doesn't really come back to one way of eating or not. And this is just something I really want you also to keep in mind, because it doesn't really mean that when you change your diet you're going to be healthy in 1 second, because when you don't do any sports, for example, it doesn't going to bring you anything, or not as much as you might think. Both diets can also have quite a low level of vitamin B or omega-3 fatty acids, and this has also to do with what kind of foods you eat, but also in what combination. It also for iron, it really depends on what combination of food you are eating that the intake is going to be like successful. And this is also something that doesn't mean that if you eat meat or something that you're gonna have much more B12 or iron. And yeah, it's just like the relation is really important and not just only the sole ingredients that you eat. And the other point is also that even though many people or many sources say that vegetarian and vegan diets are really healthy or can be healthy, it just really is the stress on can be healthy, because you can also be vegan and not be healthy because you are always buying processed food and you are not doing anything by yourself. And processed food are mostly contain strange ingredients, like also mostly sugar and things that you don't really want to eat in a healthy diet. So this is somehow a little bit a damnation, I would say, that there are much more vegan substitutes and vegan processed food in the stores right now, and there are gonna be more and more, because I don't think these are really necessary or these are good for the health, because this is something that actually everyone wants to go away from, and this is something that imitates the other, like the meat, processed meat industry and diet. So I just think this is something also to keep in mind, that this doesn't mean that when you're vegan it's equal being healthy, because it really depends on what you eat and how you eat. Of course, veganism is not only about food, but in this video I just really wanted to concentrate on that. But in the future I will also do another videos about the other aspects of a vegan lifestyle. So if you don't want to miss that, subscribe to my channel. I would also really appreciate it, and then you will be notified about when I have another video up. So the next point of this video, I want to discuss some factors that I think are major drivers of going vegan in general, that are also really major reasons for me. And first of all, we have the animal welfare. For some people this might be the major thing. For me is probably like, yeah, it's maybe not the most important thing for me, but of course it is important, and because I love animals and I don't want to do any harm to them. In the comparison of vegan and vegetarian, both of these of course take into consideration the animal welfare, but the vegetarians, they really just look at that I'm not gonna eat an animal because then it's dead. But vegans really also consider the question of, is the animal going to be hurt? Is it going to be in pain? Is it going to be suffering? This is like going much deeper into the animal welfare, because it's not only about the death of it. And of course there is also the ethical question about this, if is death or is suffering worse or not. But I'm gonna go deeper into that. This is something that you really have to think for yourself and make your own opinion about this. The other factor is health, and as I mentioned before, the health aspect may differ quite a lot regarding how you eat and what you eat and what you cook, because this can be really different, and this can be different for every person, and it's not like a one size fits all, because this is a whole package of your whole lifestyle, how you live, and it's not really as black and as white as one might think. Of course that there are studies that tell that meat eaters have a higher risk of cardiovascular diseases and things like that, and cancer as well, but this is also really depending on everything. This is just really also dependent on how you plan your diet, what is your nutrient intake, how much you move around in your life, and also what food you eat, and not only in which direction, you know. And the third factor, and for me probably the leading factor, is sustainability and environmental aspects. So in general, probably all of you also know that, for example, not eating meat is much more eco-friendly than eating meat, because meat just needs much more resources. But also regarding dairy products, for example, cow's milk just needs quite a lot resources, almost as twice as plant-based milk, because there's the cow that needs to produce that milk, and it needs the resources, it needs the food and water to live for the time that it gives the milk. So it uses much more resources than just a plant, because it's like on the direct way into the milk, you know. And this is the one thing. But the other thing is also that it really depends on where you have your food from. If you have your food from your own garden, this is the most cool thing that you can do. This is the most environmental friendly thing that you can do. I wish I would have garden, but this is not the case. But I still try to not buy, I don't know how many avocados in like every day or something, because this is not going to be more sustainable than if you eat like a piece of in 1 or 2 weeks, you know. Because for the fact that it has to be flown in from another country, from another continent, is not gonna make it more sustainable because it's not meat or because it's not an animal product. So eating really locally and seasonally is really an important thing. It's not only for people who eat like plant-based, it's important for everyone. But I think if you really think about the environmental aspect, it's not only just saying I'm eating plants, but eating a whole lot of plants that are not found naturally or grown naturally in your environment. Of course, if you live somewhere where you can have mangoes every day from the tree in your garden, I'm not saying you cannot do that, but just when you live, like for example in Europe, you don't have these things, and maybe you eat them occasionally, but it doesn't mean that you have to eat them every day just because you're vegan, because this is not something that rectifies this. And yeah, I just think that this is something that has to be in balance, because sometimes people are just like so in the question of environmentalism that they also forget that. I used the exact example of plant milk. And when you decide that you don't want to drink cow's milk, this is of course much better for the environment. But when you, for example, only drink coconut or almond milk, this is not going to be much more environmentally friendly, because here in Europe you don't really have these plants growing. So it makes much more sense to drink, for example, soy or oat milk with plants that are also planted in Europe. And this also makes a difference within this plant-based spectrum, so to say. So it's not always as black and white as one might think. And that's why my opinion is that you should find a solution for yourself, do the research and reflect critically about what you read, what you see, what your doctor also or your friends and family say, and just think about this for yourself and not just take in information and just be naive, because there are so many also misinformation and things that people want you to believe. So I think thinking critically about these things and about how you feel by yourself, how your body feels and how you feel when you eat one particular food or you don't eat it, is really important. So in this last part of the video, I really want to dive a little bit into my viewpoint and also why I am not 100% vegan. And here I just wanted to be really transparent, and I'm not wanted to say I'm someone else. I'm not, even though I'm saying that I am vegan, because I am the most part of my life, but it's not 100%, it's maybe more like 97 or 98% of my time. So I think I thought about what is it if you're not vegan like 100%? Is there a name? Like flexitarian is existing, but what if you say you're a flexible vegan? So maybe it's flexigan or flexigenian. I'm not sure which one is better, and I'm not sure if there is a word like that, but if you have an opinion, please make a comment. I would be really interested in what you think. Maybe you know of this word for this. This is my term for part-time vegan. I'm not saying this because I think every diet should have a specific name. It's just more to describe a little bit what it is, because there are for sure people that are 100% vegan and not are strict as hell, but I am not, and there are really reasons for that. And for me, it's maybe not as difficult as for other people to make these exceptions, because when I do these exceptions, I mostly feel more free, more flexible, as if I were strict. And for example, if I'm visiting my grandparents and they don't really understand what is vegan, or they don't want it to understand and they think this is something that I shouldn't do, yeah, I don't want it to, you know, be a problem also when they cook or something. I don't want to be inflexible or impolite. Or if I'm out for dinner with friends or on vacation, there is not always a possibility to eat something vegan, and then it's not, for me, it's not something tragic to eat vegetarian. Of course, I'm not gonna eat meat because it's like off limits for me, but eating something vegetarian is not a really big problem for me. Of course, if you are really long vegan and then you eat something that has lactose or something in it, it can not be really good for your stomach. But in general, my gut doesn't really care about this. If I eat some small thing that contains dairy products, I just really like to give myself this freedom to make exceptions. And also, if I really feel like eating something because, I don't know, someone has baked a fresh cake or something that is not vegan, I'm not gonna say no to that when I really feel that need to eat that just because I'm vegan. And I'd rather do that than eating a processed cake from the store or something. So that is where I really do like to make the comparisons in my head and to think about this, what does make sense for me in that moment. And even though I am vegan, I am plant-based, this is my ground, so to say. I'm based in the plant-based diet, but I also like to bend the rule a little. This is all because I think that being too strict with yourself, especially in the beginning of your journey, for example with veganism, is not going to lead to anything, because for most people it's much more difficult to maintain this habit if they are too strict with themselves. And if you're not allowing yourself exceptions because you just have the need, sometimes you just have like underconscious need for something, and then just restricting yourself is not always good for you and your mental health, and also, yeah, in general. So to end this video, I'd really like to say that no matter how you approach your diet, it only has to work for you and not for anybody else. And doing something good for your health, for the animal welfare and the environment is in itself a good step in the right direction. It doesn't have to be something that you do 100% of the time, because it's still good that you even do it. So I hope you liked this video and that I could spark in you a little bit of this critical thinking about your diet. And I hope I will see you in my next video in 2 weeks. Bye guys!